This is my GT rig.
Nice little medals from the World Finals.
I play Gran Turismo.
All the shirts.
And the big old hammer
This is pretty useful.
for when you get annoyed at losing a race.
This is my rig.
My whole setup.
Beautiful trophy.
My GT rig.
My rig.
Here comes Miazano on the floor. Oh no! Big contact there.
Absolutely brilliant.
Absolutely amazing. But they're still side by side. It's a drag race to the line. Who's going to get it?
Hello and welcome to the 2020 Top 16 Superstars race for the Oceania region. We're here today for the Nations Cup and the Manufacturer Series. My name's Tom Brooks, alongside me Jimmy Broadbent. And Jimmy, we're kicking things off with the Nations Cup race at the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya.
That's right, Catalonia. We all know this circuit, of course, home of the Spanish GP, and a track full of fast-flowing corners, but really overtaking is quite tricky. So, all about corner exit here and keeping those tyres alive.
These drivers in Group 2 cars, you can see racing soft, medium and hard compounds available to them over the course of 19 laps. Now, 3 times fuel consumption, 9 times tyre wear. Just for those who are tuning in for the first time, Jimmy, what exactly does that mean and what should we expect for the race?
Well, tyre wear is a big one, 9 times there, of course, especially around this circuit as well. It means that our drivers are probably going to have to make extra pit stops to make sure the tyres stay alive or drive very conservatively. So you have 2 options, maximum attack or maximum maximum keeping your tyres alive. That's definitely a term. But those are your options for this race.
Good stuff. Well, without further ado, let's go over to the grid then and get the Nations Cup race underway. So then to the grid for the Oceania Nations Cup race, and here is how the drivers line up at the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya. On pole position, Cody Nikola Lakowski. How is he going to do down towards that first corner? Well, alongside him he's got the hard-charging Matt McEwen in P2. P3, Matthew Simmons. Keep an eye out for him as well, a very familiar name in our World Tour events. Cy Bishop lines up in P4, the Kiwi driver. In P5 on the grid, Emily Jones. What can she do from 5th place? And alongside Emily, it's Lindgren. Towards the lower end of the top 10, we've got Voon in P7 with a very distinct livery on his machine. And alongside him is Law in, well, I think you can guess what that livery is all about, can't you? The lower half of the top 10, Watley in P9. And rounding out that top 10 is Lockyer in the Red Bull-esque livery machine. The lower half of the top 10, we've got Hartley in P11. And then Cowie in P12. The next row of the grid lines up with Fowles in P13. And alongside Fowles is Bradley in 14th position. And then the final row of the grid, you can see all lined up there. So all the drivers here, Jimmy, starting on the soft or medium compound of tyres, what are we expecting down to T1 for this and over the course of these 19 laps?
Well, it's quite a close start here at Catalonia in terms of the rolling start. So there may be a chance for McEwen and Simmons to have a go at Cody there at the front of the pack, but seems unlikely at this point given Cody's pace of recent times as well. Cy Bishop and Emily Jones behind them, 4th and 5th, both on the medium compound of tyre. I've got to say, it's very interesting seeing some of those liveries there. It's been a bit of a trend to see manufacturers' liveries on the wrong manufacturer. I'm kind of enjoying it. It's kind of fun to see.
Yeah, it kind of works an interesting way, doesn't it? It makes the cars look very distinct, and indeed the drivers as well. So, Cody Nikola Lakowski lines around the final corner. What is he going to be able to do, starting on the soft compound of tyre, as are Matt McEwen and Matt Simmons. Cy Bishop and Emily Jones kind of out of sync with everybody else. But as we get ready to come over the timing line, the Oceania Nations Cup Top 16 Superstars race for round 3 of the championship is about to get underway as Lakowski leads the field over the timing line for the first time of 19 then. Down towards the first corner, are we going to see any moves being made? Everybody ducking and darting into the slipstream. You can see P3 there, Matt Simmons tries trying to break the toe of Cy Bishop behind, hard on the brakes, and Matt McEwen is trying to go the long way around the outside through there, but he's not quite able to get the inside line for turn 2, has to back out of it. Now his next chance will surely be going into turn 4 as he gets a good run through this right-hander, but Cody Lukowski has got him covered off, and everybody making a relatively clean start here, Jimmy.
So far, yeah, a little bit of a boop at the T1 there between McEwen and Lukowski, but they've got through okay. And now I think this is what the top 3 need to do, really, just try and work on breaking away from the guys on the medium tyres behind them. They're acting as a kind of barrier to the rest of the field, so that's their objective now. Get away and get as much time on them as fast as possible. For Cy Bishop and Emily Jones in 4th and 5th, their job is to try and not let anyone by on that medium compounder tyre. When you're on the medium compound, you're going to be slower than the guys on the soft, obviously, so the more time you hold them up, the less of an advantage they're going to have later on in the race.
Well, exactly that. And the thing is, whilst they're busy holding up the likes of Lindgren and Voon, as we see Lindgren trying to duck out to the slipstream, Voon trying to go the long way around the outside of T10 as well. Is he going to be able to make that move stick through there? Side by side they come through the following left-hander and then into the right. Lindgren does just hold on, but that's very close quarters between those two drivers in the opening stages of this race. But I was saying, of course, all the while they're being held up by these medium runners, Bishop and Jones on the medium tyres, everybody behind is going to be falling back and out of the clutches of the likes of the top 3 at the moment. Oh, very, very over the curb there for Cy Bishop. That's allowed Emily Jones to pull alongside. Side by side they come down the start-finish straight. Lindgren's going to come in as well. We're going to go 3 wide on the start-finish straight at the start of lap 2. Who is going to break the latest? Jones in the middle of the sandwich. Bishop on the outside. Lindgren on the inside. Hard on the brakes we go down into T1, and Lindgren takes 2 in 1. That is a fantastic move from Lindgren. He moves up into P4 from P6 at the start of lap 2.
Yeah, that all started with Cy Bishop's mistake coming out of the last corner, which kind of held up Jones as well and allowed Lindgren to put aside. And by that point, once he was alongside, it was a done deal. He was always going to outbrake them into T1 on that soft compound. So Jones stays where she is, funnily enough, but Cy loses 2 places there as a result of that. So really, it's not a great start for Cy, but he's still ahead of most of the soft runners behind him. So maybe a little bit of damage imitation now. Now that medium runner pace is left with Emily Jones. Great to see her in these events now. She's been kind of steadily climbing the rankings. I follow her personal stream every now and then. It's good to see her finally getting into these superstar races.
Yeah, we're used to seeing her at some of the World Tour events. She was in Sydney back in February and competed in the Pro-Am race there. Didn't do too well, unfortunately, but we're used to seeing her at our World Tour event, so good to see her competing.
Do you know who did do well, Tom?
Well, yes, I do know who did do well, Jimmy. Who was it?
You can't see it right now, but I'm putting the smuggest face you've ever seen in your life. Absolutely carried by
begins with J, ends in Broadbent, doesn't it? Meanwhile, Cody Lukowski at the end of lap 2, the start of lap 3, has a 1.1 second advantage over Matt McEwen. There he is, the race leader down in towards T1. He's pulled out a bit of a gap then to his fellow compatriots in P2 and P3 of McEwen and Simmons. Then Lindgren now up into P4, as we said. 1.6 seconds he pulled out on Emily Jones just on that one lap, and that is really impressive. Just to give you an idea of the difference in pace as well, over the course of that last lap, Lindgren a 136 flat, Emily Jones a 137.6. He was 1.7 seconds quicker. That is hugely impressive. What a difference in pace.
It seems as well that while all the tyres, of course, are wearing, it seems the soft tyre, funnily enough, wears better than the medium compounder tyre. I don't know if I'm making that up, but that's what it seems in the races there. Meanwhile, we've got a battle here between Voon and Wolseley. 7th, 8th and 9th very closely pictured. There they are, just streaking by the camera. Now we go back uphill, running a little bit wide there was Nick Voon. Oh, sideways there as Wolseley gets a better run through the left-hander, slides it up the inside coming into the right, and that's a move made already. However, he's now going to be giving the draft to the guys behind him in the background. Looks like Lord's going to go for the inside move in that Porsche livery Nissan. Never thought I'd say that. Oh, a little bit of contact between him and Wolseley. And I think that's about done. No, Voon's still there on the outside, trying to hold on. He won't make it around the outside here, I can tell you that now. And he has to settle back into 9th place. But a very, very active few corners here for the midfield.
I'm trying to work out the colour scheme on that car for Voon. It almost looks like a hybrid of an M&M's livery versus a United Colours of Benetton livery from the 1980s. Very distinctive, but it's sadly tumbling back down the order. He's falling into the clutches of Bradley here as well, as Lockyer comes into the pit lane. Here is Bradley then challenging for P9 in the slipstream, going to pull to the inside as they come down the start-finish straight at the start of lap 4 then. Bradley on the inside, Voon on the outside. Voon's got good straight line speed though. Who's going to brake latest? Bradley goes hard on the brakes. He makes the move stick. He moves up into P9, so that simple mistake from Voon coming through that middle sector last time around has cost him very dearly here indeed. It's cost him 3-4 positions over the course of that one there.
Yeah, I mean, it just happens, especially when the racing is this close. You make a mistake and you just get steam trained by the guys behind you, and that's about it. All you can do is sit there and wait for the gap to re-emerge. But so far, these guys have been fighting very hard in the midfield in their soft compounder tyres, but all the time they're doing that, they're allowing Emily Jones and Cy Bishop on a worse tyre to pull away, and that is a bigger advantage than what you see on the screen right there. Gaps are starting now to pull out to the gaps we're used to seeing between these cars, about 1.2, 1.3 seconds. When the dirty air starts to take effect, and it gets very hard to follow. Once you get inside that, if you're within about 5 or 6 tenths, you can stay with somebody. But in that in the dirty air zone, I think that's what we're going to call it there, it gets very hard to follow somebody. So we're going to see those gaps probably open up. There's Cy Bishop with the KFC livery. I've seen a lot of those liveries. I think there are a lot of in-jokes I've seen that I've not really understood with these guys.
Have you seen his bonnet though as well on that GTR, Jimmy? It says "Hi,
No,
Tom and
that.
Jimmy" on the front of his car.
Hi, Cy. Hello, mate.
What a boy Cy Bishop is. There you go, you can see it there. Fantastic.
Oh, no.
Well, over the timing line comes Cy Bishop. I mean, there's no what's the word, bias from us up here in the commentary position, but Cy, well, if you wanted to mention, that's
there is
exactly
now.
what he's got.
No, I was going to say, I mean, I think that what that means is that he's going to buy us KFC next time we meet, so I'm going to hold you to that, Si. I appreciate that, dude. But yeah, that's always great. And again, I said this yesterday when we did the European broadcast, that it's just great to see so many different liveries on show. That's what I really like about these online superstar races. Of course, in the World Tour events, we have a kind of set liveries for the drivers, but I really enjoy seeing all the differences here. Right now, we're watching Cody Nikolakowski hard at work in the office in the Nissan GTR. This seems to be by far and away the most popular car for this race. It seems to be the one that works best. I was saying that Cody's running things a little bit ragged there, missed the apex by a little bit, then went very wide towards the gravel on the left there. He has still got the pace over McEwen, but I think just needs to try and... We know what Cody's driving style is like. I think aggressive is understated.
Yeah, we've seen him in previous World Tour events, aggressive, and we always hark back to it. But if you look back to World Tour 3 in New York last year, that aggressive chop he made on Miyazono, got a penalty for it. That was the infamous Red Bull X29 team race, the grand final at Spa-Francorchamps in the Nations Cup. Cody comes into the pit lane then at the end of lap 5. He's on the soft tyre. Now, where is he going to go in terms of his strategy? He goes soft. Don't forget, of course, just to remind you, they have to run all 3 compounds of tyre in this race, so he's still going to run the mediums and indeed the hard compound. There's no minimum tyre time, so they can run them for a lap or so and then come back. But where is he going to emerge here? Cody Nikolakowski, he chops across the nose of Matt Simmons of P3. He's got a little bit of a buffer there to Matt McEwen, who is now taking over this race lead. So that'll be quite good for him there, because he can run a couple of laps in clean-ish air here.
Yeah, perfect, really. That's the way he wanted to come out, just in a gap. You don't want to be too close to the back of somebody. They're saying that, as you said, he is looking like he's going to be catching McEwen before he takes his pit stop. So we'll have to see how that works out for him.
Yeah, exactly that. Lindgren's got a penalty on the left-hand side of your screen. You can see that there as well. That's the red flashing dot next to his name. Not quite sure what that's for. We didn't see it on screen. It could be contact with another driver. It could be simply exceeding track limits. Unlike in our World Tour events, these race events are not stewarded live. They're just giving out penalties in-game. It's a half-second penalty, so that will be for exceeding track limits there for Lindgren. And he's going to serve that now, coming through turn 9 of Kampsa. And then coming on to this short straight down towards turn 10. That's the penalty zone. You can see that indicated with the yellow markers at either side of the circuit. Serves that penalty, doesn't lose too much time, just half a second, and stays in P5. Now here is Lakowski, exactly what you were saying there, Jimmy. Look how much he's closed up. That fresher rubber is really helping him now. The question is Matt McEwen going to come into the pit lane here? Has it cost Matt McEwen dear? He does come into the pit lane. from P2, and he's going to put another set of soft boots on his car, presumably, and follow the same strategy as Latkovsky. He does do exactly the same. Matt McEwen also in the pit lane here as well. Now Cody can just put his foot to the floor and keep that pace he was running.
Yeah, no choice really but to take that pit stop now, given that Cody obviously on the undercut there has increased exponentially his lead. So the gap being 2 seconds before, now up to 4.5 seconds. So really a clever opportunity there to come into the pit lane and get that sorted.
Yep, looks like it was a very good strategy call there for Cody, and this is good to see for him, really. We're used to seeing him doing very well in these top 16 Superstars races. We've seen him do well at the FIA Motorsport Games, for example, if you look back to last year. Hasn't stood on the top step of the podium in a World Tour event overall yet. Finished, of course, P2 infamously, that drag to the line he had with Miyazono in the Nations Cup race back in Sydney. But that top step still seems to elude him, and well, this might do a good job of giving him back a little bit of confidence, at least against his fellow Oceania region competitors here.
Hopefully, yeah. I mean, as you said, it wouldn't have been very nice for him, and we've discussed it in detail about how he's, of course, lost out right at the last moment in Sydney in front of a home audience. But Cody's always one of those guys that will just continue, keep going, keep trying to improve. He always takes things as lessons, which is very much like a real driver would in the real world. So it's good to see him with that attitude, really. Here, speaking of the real world drivers, Matt Simmons, of course, our GT Academy winner from a few years ago, done a lot of real life driving. I actually have, interestingly, this is a very weird story. One of my friends in the real world, I know that the real world does exist still, he had a Nismo drinks bottle that he just picked up in a merch shop somewhere. Happened to be Matt Simmons' merch bottle, so he gave it to me. So I have Matt Simmons' drink bottle from one of the times that he drove, I think, in the GT3 car. I just have it. For no
Fantastic. As
go.
you do.
That's
Why
the story.
not? Why not? Simon Bishop has been given a penalty. You can see that on the left-hand side of your screen. He's in P5 now on the soft compound of tyre. Again, haven't seen what that is for. It's a half-second penalty, so that is, of course, for exceeding track limits, as we're used to seeing. So Bishop and Jones, who started on the medium tyres, they're now on the soft compound of tyres, but they've got those out of the way, so they can run until the end of the race, presumably, and then put the hard compound of tyres onto the closing stage. And if that's the strategy they're going to run, maybe they'll come in, put the hard tyres on for one lap, and then run the softs until the end and be the quicker of the drivers out. What we're probably expecting to see for the likes of Cody Latkovsky is for them to spend as little time as possible on the medium and the soft compound of tyres if they're going to make 4 stops in this race and just run the softs for the other stints. Here is Bishop about to serve that penalty. How much time is he going to lose? Well, half a second, we know that, but is he going to lose a position to Jones in the process? His car ghosts as he takes that penalty, comes back in, loses time, doesn't lose that position there for now. He's quite lucky, really, that penalty zone there, Jimmy, because it's not too long of a straight, so she's not able to gain too much momentum here.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the problems I think we have with this particular penalty system right now, where you end up essentially gambling as to where you lose your time or not. Oh, there you go, Jones a little bit slippy over the curb in the background there. But if you have a penalty zone, let's say here, right at the start of this straight, you lose a ton of time over losing it on the back straight. So maybe a discussion for another day as Lockyer comes into the pit lane. Emily Jones closing up on Cy Bishop in front. Of course, a reminder, both these guys started on the medium compounder tyres, so they only have the hard yet to run. It's a bit of a traditional race in that aspect, the fact that we have to always run, or you have to run the soft, medium and hard tyre at least for 1 lap. So if you don't do that, you get a big old DQ at the end. So what that means is the guys who have run the medium and soft tyre still have the hard yet to run. Those that have run hard and medium still have the soft yet to run, yada yada yada, that sort of thing. But in between then, you can use whatever tyre combination you like, which is why we're seeing people already having 2 stops on the soft tyre before we even got to halfway through the race.
And what do we think about the strategies that these drivers are running here? Because, for example, with the World Tour events, you can run the different tyre compounds, but you have to run them for a minimum allotted time, whether that's 3 or 4 laps. Here, of course, in these Top 16 Superstars events, there's no minimum tyre time for them to use. Does that take away an element of excitement or strategy? Does it make it a bit more predictable? Because we know they're only going to use those hard tyres for 1 lap, because that's all they have to do them for, really.
Yeah, I think that really, if I'm being honest, the hard tyre needs to be looked at in some capacity and maybe given a bit of a buff. I think that it's a little bit too slow in these events, and people just don't use it. They don't see the reason to use it. That or the wear doesn't quite work the same way for the medium and the soft compounder tyres. Whether it takes away from the strategy or not, I don't really know, because we're seeing different strategies emerge because of that. You know, we're seeing people come in using different compounds of tyres, using multiple soft compounds of tyres when usually they don't have to use it once, and taking the extra pit stop. And around here as well, the actual loss of time in the pit lane seems very minimal, like 4 or 5 seconds maybe. And we know that the difference between the soft and medium tyres is about 1.5 seconds a lap in the right hand. So if you're out there for 4 laps, 5 laps on the soft compounded tyre over being on the medium compounded tyre, you're gaining time, but even with an extra stop.
And these drivers, of course, don't really have to consider fuel too much as a variable in this race. Fuel is going to be quite critical towards the end in terms of how much they have left, but it's not like we're expecting them to have to make fuel stops and take on fuel on board, which obviously minimises that pit time as well. You can see Emily Jones is getting very close here to Cy Bishop in the middle stages of this lap, so Cy clearly not happy with something, and missing the apex through turn 7 is not going to help his run up the hill as he comes in towards turn 9. Through into Campsa we go, and Bishop just looks a little bit all at sea here at the moment, and that is allowing Jones to have a bit of a run. Bishop's going to go defensive down this straight, you can guarantee it. Jones is going to have to try and go the long way around the outside in towards turn 10 of Lakaisha. Hard on the brakes we go, Bishop defends, Jones tries to get the switch back on the exit, isn't quite able to find her way past at the moment, but clearly Bishop looking the weaker of the two drivers in this squabble for P5 here at the moment, Jimmy.
Very long way around as well, it is down the bottom there. Very hard to go around the outside there unless you have a massive tyre advantage, and really Emily needs to get past Cy as soon as she can, because she's just losing time right now. Cy seems to be, as you say, struggling a little bit on those tyres, and they're coming out onto the back of Lindgren as well, who I think they both have the pace to get by, but it's just who gets there first. Now here's a good opportunity to get by here, coming down to T1, but the thing is Cy has the tow from Lindgren in front, so Emily, although she is in the deep in the tow herself, there's not really a way by for her at the moment.
Taxis to the apex there for Bishop at T1. He was really wide going through there. That's compromised him through turn 2 and also compromising him through turn 3. The front's just washing out here for him. He's stuck in that dirty air. Jones is just a little bit closer, and while she is stuck right behind Cy Bishop, it's not affecting her too much, it would seem here. She's able to run the lines that she would normally like to, but such is the characteristic of the circuit of Barcelona-Catalunya, she's not able to find her way past. If she can get a good launch out of T5, maybe she can get something through the left-handed kink of turn 6, there it is, and up into turn 7 and 8. But again, just running really close, but Bishop just parking that car, even if it is inadvertently, exactly where Jones doesn't want her to.
Yeah, I mean that's the art of defending, really, just putting your car in all the right places at the right times. But he's gone for the traditional line coming now down to the hairpin, but Jones not quite close enough to make it. Basically, we have this little scrap 4 ways here, and it seems
Lindgren's gone!
Wide, catches the curb. Oh, and Lindgren too. Oh wow, okay, that will change very quickly. What happened there?
He lost it coming out of turn 10, did Lindgren, just in the forefront of his shot. So this is now a battle for P4. And Bishop is having to defend, but getting very squirrely indeed. Lukowski makes another pit stop there from the race lead, goes again onto the soft compound of tyres, but this is Jones's best chance now, I would say, to try and challenge against Cy Bishop, because Bishop doesn't have the advantage of that slipstream in front. Out of the final corner we go, and Jones is surely going to dart to the inside. Is Bishop going to be able to try and defend? Is he going to try and get the switchback coming through that first corner? Jones goes to the inside, Bishop on the outside, side by side they come. Jones goes late on the brakes, takes the apex and takes 4th position there, so very sensible driving, and that worked very nicely indeed for Emily Jones.
Yeah, not much that Cy could do there really with the slipstream pass. Emily then came across to the apex, just braked there, and of course nowhere for Cy to go, just got to be patient, and that's it done. So now can Emily start whittling down the gap to Matt Simmons, because look, all the while they've been fighting, 9.5 seconds between her now and Matt in front. Now, of course, bear in mind, everybody in the top 3 have only been running soft tyres so far, so they've still got to take the two slower compounds, so you might see the gap come down a little bit, but it's going to have to be a hell of a drive from Emily to catch up from here.
There is Matt McEwen in P2, Cody Lukowski. He, of course, pitted last time around, as we know, has made that pit stop, and is now on his next set of soft tyres. Just to remind you, as Jimmy said, they've both got to run the hard and medium compounds once more in the remaining stages of this race. Lap 12 out of 19 we are on, just about to start lap 13. Does Matt McEwen come into the pit lane here? Yes, indeed he does. Is he going to go and do the same strategy as Cody Lukowski? From the soft tyre he's in, but he goes medium here in this middle stint of the race. What about Matt Simmons? Does he follow suit? Yes, he does. So that's interesting.
So maybe medium, hard, then soft to the end. I'm trying to think now what they would do, because really what we've seen in previous races is that anyone that chooses to go to the hard tyre for any amount of time, saying that, Jones and Bishop have now both gone for the hard tyre, I think probably to get off that in a lap and then go back to the soft for the end. But we saw Giorgio Mangano take the hard tyre, I think, for 2 laps or 3 laps extra than he needed to, and it just completely ruined his chance at a podium. So that hard tyre, you want to get off that as quick as you can. Meanwhile, a fight going on back here for P6 as Bishop comes out the pit lane straight into the clutches here of Bradley, who is all over the back of him. Bradley on the soft compounder tyre. That's going to be a disaster for Bishop, because guess what? Emily Jones has come out ahead of Lindgren on the hard compound, so she'll be holding him up. But now Cy Bishop is behind, is 2 cars behind Emily Jones, where it was just directly behind at the moment. So that's not gone well for Cy, but that goes to show you just how tight these margins are at the moment.
Yeah, significantly so. Lindgren then is putting the pressure now on to Jones. We saw him making that mistake a couple of laps ago on the medium tyres. He is still on the medium compound of tyres here and is still challenging Emily Jones, coming through the right-hander of turn number 9. Not quite close enough to make anything through there, but if he can get a good launch coming through corner exit, then maybe he is able to find his way past. But again, not quite close enough under braking, but he's significantly faster than Emily Jones. He's got more grip under braking because, of course, he's on the quicker of the 2 compound of tyres. Jones on the hard, Lindgren on the mediums. Meanwhile, Cy Bishop, look how much he's dropped back. He must have made some kind of a mistake there. He is on the hard tyre, so you wouldn't expect him to be anywhere near as quick as Bradley. But that just goes to show the difference in performance between the 2 tyre compounds. What we should expect, though, at the end of this lap is Jones and Bishop to come in, get off of those hard tyres. As they do, Jones comes in. Is Bishop going to follow suit? He is, I'm sure. But Lindgren's got a penalty there. He's got a 1-second penalty. I think that's for exceeding track limits. And that is not going to help his charge, because he's got Bradley less than half a second behind.
We're now seeing also the gap of a pit stop, and how little you actually lose in the pit lane here, due to how the pit stops are done in GT Sport, of course. But I think what Lindgren did there is he just that final curb. It's so easy to take too much of that curb and just get slapped on the wrist for it. So that's what's happened there, and that's probably going to put Lindgren behind Bradley and probably out of contention for this sort of scrap here for 4th position. But we have Emily Jones now on the soft compounder tyre, Bishop on the soft compound. They don't have to stop again now. They've now made all their stops. The guys at the front all need to stop as well and go onto the hard compounder tyre. They're going to be on a slower compound to the end of the race. Will these guys catch up? It's going to be a bit of a stretch, but we'll see.
Well, that's a crucial question. Lindgren here is about to lose a position to Bradley, I'm pretty much certain, because he's got a 1-second slowdown penalty, and indeed Bradley goes through. But of course, one thing to mention about Lukowski, he hasn't run the medium tyres or the hard tyres yet. He's only run the soft so far in this race, so he's still going to make another pit stop, and he's still going to run the slower 2 compounds, whilst he's got the likes of McEwen and Simmons, who have only got 1 more compound to run, essentially. So there's definitely a difference in strategies going on here. I think the saving grace here for Lukowski is the fact that the pit stop times, you don't lose too much time in them, and of course he's got a 9.6 second buffer to Matt McEwen in P2.
No, I think that's kind of been a big factor here. Traditional strategy's gone out the window a little bit because how quick the pit stop is. So it's interesting to see the strategies that come from it, of course, but maybe a longer pit stop needed in the future. Meanwhile, here is Bradley, head of this little pack at the moment. Lindgren and Jones behind. Both Bradley and Lindgren do need to stop again. They do need to take the hard compounder tyre. I've not seen either of them take it as of yet, though I might have missed it because there's a lot of stuff going on in this race, so please forgive me if I have. Here is Emily Jones on that new soft compounder tyre. You're now seeing the difference in speed between these, as Lindgren in front, who is not a slow driver by any means, is being completely reeled in by Emily on the soft compound. Dives to the inside, down the bottom there, down at T5. Move made, nice and easy, and now she'll go in pursuit of Bradley.
Lovely stuff there for Emily Jones. Textbook overtaking manoeuvre into the top 5. Once again, she's driving so professionally and so maturely in this race. Up through turn 9 she comes. Now the next gap is, of course, with Bradley. Of course, Jones has made that extra pit stop. Bradley's still got at least another pit stop to make in this race. Hard on the brakes we go, down in towards turn number 10. Just see how much quicker the soft compound of tyres. Just to give you an idea in terms of sector times between those 2 drivers. Jones, in the middle sector of this lap, was a 36.2. Bradley, a 36.5. So, yeah, 0.3 of a second faster just in the 1 sector alone. And look at how much she's closed that gap down here in this final sector. Or a mistake there for Bradley's not going to help him coming through that chicane either. And he
Oh,
comes
I
into
think
the pit lane
because
at the
he
end
was,
of the lap.
he was preparing for that, so the mind's in a different place. You're not quite trying to get the best exit possible. So clean road there for Jones, but 13 seconds to make up. I don't think that's going to be possible unless there's a mistake at the front, but we've seen that sort of stuff before. And speaking of mature drives, we can't help but overlook Cody Nikola Lakowski right now. He does have to come onto the hard compounder tyre at the end, but he's got a massive 10-second gap over the next fastest car. He can afford just to cruise around now, but you'll see no such behaviour from Cody there again in the office in the GTR. Not a bad place to spend your afternoon, I don't think, as well. He looks, I say it looks cool, but he always looks cool anyway in real life, even in virtual as well. But a little bit of a twist of the wheel coming into the hairpin, now back up the hill again. And we know Cody. He's not the sort of guy to slow down, is he? He's always the one that will keep pushing, and I think even if it betrays a mistake, he'll always give it 110%, and right now that's really coming off very well from 11 seconds now to McEwen. Will he dive into the pit lane? No, I think we'll see him coming on probably end of lap 18 for that hard tyre.
Yep, exactly that. I mean, he has got to run the medium and the hard tyre. I'm fairly sure that he didn't start the race on the medium tyre. Memory escapes me a little bit now, but I think he's still going to run the remaining 2 compounds in this race, yeah. So he's got to make at least another 2 stops. He's going to start doing that surely at the end of this lap, lap 17. You can see the marbles coming into play there just offline, and that is where you don't want to be if you're battling with another driver. Not something that Cody has to be dealing with at the moment. But just to give you an idea of his lap times, it was a 1:35.9 for him last time around. Matt McEwen on the medium tyre in second place was a 1:36.7, so he's nearly 0.8 of a second faster than Matt McEwen, just that different tyre compound of tyre. And of course, he's been running those tyres for a good number of laps now as well.
Yeah, just you get comfy sometimes on a set of tyres, even if they are worn. You sort of understand the wear, and you understand where you can still push and still carry speed. That there, for example, was somewhere where the front tyre is probably starting to give up a little bit now when you're turning in, and again through the fast right-hander here, just a little bit wider the apex, but opening up the corner a lot on exit, which is going to help with tyre wear, just not scrubbing the tyres. I remember I did a few track days last year, and one of the things the instructor said is try and straighten up the wheel as quick as you can, because you're decreasing the resistance to the front of the tyres, and also you're not wearing them as quickly. So there's a real art to corner exit here, and Cody's really, I think having that is really helping that tyre wear in this GTR.
So coming through that final sector, he's going to peel into the pit lane here. Look at that! Whoa! Goodness me, that was on the ragged edge of adhesion, wasn't it? Into the pit lane he comes, 12 litres of fuel left, so I think he'll just take a couple of litres on board here onto the medium tyres for 1 lap in this race. But he's got a comfortable buffer to everybody else, Matt McEwen and Matt Simmons. Out of the pit lane he comes, still holds on to his race lead by a comfortable margin. What does it sit at then after that pit stop, just to give you an idea of the pit loss time? Well, Matt McEwen has continued on, I think, 6.8 seconds, so really lost 4 or 5 seconds in that one. Matt Simmons has come in for the hard compound of tyres as well in P3. So this is Jones's chance to pounce, really, and take advantage whilst Matt Simmons is on that hard compound of tyre for at least a lap or so. But I just, again, like you said, Jimmy, I think it's just going to be a little bit of a bridge too far here.
Yeah, 11 seconds is a bit too much. Meanwhile, Bishop still fighting with Lindgren. He's now on that softer compounder tyre. I mentioned he'll just drive it around the outside here. No, he doesn't. Doesn't quite have the confidence we've seen from some of the other drivers on that soft compound, especially at T1. He's not been too hot through there this race, from what we've seen anyway. But able to really hug the apex there on T3, and that's put him alongside coming up to T4, which should be a nice, easy overtake here with the addition of the grip. There it is. So side back up into P5. Him and Emily have been swapping 4th and 5th pretty much the entire race, but I think it'll probably end up being P5 because that gap to Jones in front now is nearly 7 seconds actually. So again, that's probably going to be it for Cy Bishop. So just drive to the line now and try and consolidate 5th position.
So then, just over 1 lap remaining in this Nations Cup Top 16 Superstars race for the Oceania region. Cy Bishop doing a great job of getting ahead there. There is Emily Jones just in the foreground of your shot going through turn 10, and Lakowski comes in then from the medium to the hard compound of tyres. Just 7 litres of fuel left. There is only 1 lap remaining in this one, so I wonder if he'll have just taken a couple of litres on board. I don't think he has actually. Matt McEwen also following the same strategy as Cody Lakowski. He's got the advantage of just being able to copy whatever Cody is doing. Here comes Lakowski out of the pit lane onto the final lap of the race, and a comfortable 8-second buffer. All he's got to do is just drive consistently in this race, in this last lap, and he will be in good shape. So the main thing we're looking at on screen was Jones. She's 4.9 seconds back of Matt Simmons. That's a bit too far away. Everybody else making their final pit stops, who hasn't run the whole compound of tyre in the closing stages of this one. You can see Vasily in the pit lane there, as well as Bradley and Lockyer, I think, as well, were in. And they make their pit stops, their last stop in this race. And 3 or 4 stop strategies we've seen in this one, Jimmy, so it's been an interesting mix here.
Tell you what, Tom, if you want a way of really understanding the pace of Cody in this race, is that he has done one more pit stop than the 2 guys behind him, and McEwen, of course, in fact, and he's one more pit stop, run a soft tyre again, and yet he's 8.6 seconds ahead of the entire field. It's been an absolutely fantastic run from Cody.
Yeah, hugely impressive stuff from the Australian and Macedonian driver, and he's got just 2 more corners remaining now. Through that final chicane comes Cody Nicola-Lakowski, a mature drive, an exceptional performance from the Australian, and he rounds the final corner to take the win in the Nations Cup Top 16 Superstars race for the Oceania region. Lakowski is on top at the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya. Matt McEwen comes home P2. A brilliant performance from him there as well, and Matt Simmons way down the road in P3, but he comes over the line to take a podium position after 19 laps. And Emily Jones, well, she tried her best. It was a mature drive. It was exceptional in terms of her overtaking abilities, but it's P4 at the end, with Cy Bishop coming home P5. That was hugely impressive there, Jimmy. What was your highlight there from that Nations Cup race?
I think just a dominant display by Cody. We know he's been quick as guys continue to filter across the line in the lower positions there, but just going out there and basically stamping his authority, and they're still saying, look, if you want to come anywhere near me, you've really got to up your game, because 8 seconds around here in this sort of field with it being that tight is just an obscene amount of time.
So Cody Lakowski led every single lap, had the fastest lap in that race, and took the victory. The Triple Crown there for the Australian driver. You saw the top 5 as we guided them over the line. Lindgren, Bradley and Lockyer just in the lower half of the top 10. Lindgren, but for that spin, was doing quite well in that race. Voon and Vasily make out the top 10. Then Law, Fowles, Hartley and Cowie complete the 14 drivers who took the checkered flag in that race. So with that said and done, let's see what effect that has on the championship standings. So the championship standings then, after 3 rounds, Cody Lakowski leads the way, 354 points, actually leapfrogging Matt McEwen there for the lead of the Oceania region, Jimmy.
So an important result there for Cody, moving up, of course, into the position that he'll want to be in. Also, Matt Simmons, Emily Jones, Cy Bishop and Lindgren all moving up as well. For Deef, who has unfortunately moved down, I think not present in that race and not able to defend the position. But overall, a fairly decent race, lots of movers and shakers there.
Yep, not bad at all. So that's how it sits in the Nations Cup. If you'd like to take part in the online series for the FIA Gran Turismo Championships, you firstly have to enter sport mode on GT Sport. You can represent your country or territory as part of that. We've got 3 stages for the online season. Stage 1 is in April and May, Stage 2 in June, July, Stage 3 July and August, and then our top 16 Superstars races are below. The drivers from the highest points from each region will be selected for the top 16 Superstars races, and there are 5 regions in total. We move over to the Manufacturers Series here for the Oceania region. Group 3 cars for these drivers at the Dragon Trail Seaside Circuit. 18 laps for them to compete in. 4 times fuel consumption, 6 times tyre wear. Jimmy, this is going to be quite interesting by stark comparison to our our Nations Cup race we saw just a few moments ago. This Manufacturers Series one is a little bit different.
Yeah, fuel's going to play a bigger factor here. You can't really get to the end of the race without refueling at some point. So when you refuel and what tyre you refuel on, it's really going to affect how you stand in the race. And of course, this Dragon Trail, the old chicane of Death TM down at the bottom there, very easy to get that wrong and lose a lot of places we've seen in previous races. So one of our drivers to be watching out for.
Yeah, they certainly will be. Let's head over then to the grid, shall we? So then to the grid for the Manufacturers Series race for the Oceania region of the top 16 Superstars. And here is how they all line up as they get ready to flash their lights. It's Emily Jones who's qualified on pole position for Audi. Good qualifying there then for her. Wong lines up alongside her in P2 on that front row of the grid. Third position, Adam Wilk. We're used to seeing him in our World Tour events. He's back with Ford for 2020, as you can see. Alongside him is McDonald on that second row of the grid. The next row, Mahinjit is in P5 in the Nissan GTR, and then Stanowski in P6. The next row of the grid is the Toyota Supra of Cy Bishop. He's back with the Japanese mark once more in 2020, and alongside him, Cody Nikola Latkovsky, who did so well, of course, in our Nations Cup race. Dan Holland lines up in P9, and rounding out the top 10 is Noble in the Lexus.
Then going down to 11th place in the grid, we've got Matt Simmons there in the Porsche, of course, winner in the Tokyo World Tour event last season. Then we have Connor Healy in 12th place in the Mazda. Behind him in 13th is Brown in the Ferrari, the 458 Italia, that looking great in black, by the way. Phillips there in the McLaren 650S, starting in 14th. Then to the last row of the grid, we have Matt McEwen in the Alfa Romeo 4C. And that rounds out our grid.
There you go. Nice, easy names for you to pronounce there, Jimmy. Are you grateful?
I'm really glad. I looked at the list of names. I think, please don't have any names I can't say, which is most of them, if we're honest.
So our first look then for these drivers with the different tyre compounds. Everybody starting on the medium and soft compounds inside the top 12. A couple of hard compound runners there with Brown and McEwen. What do you reckon the strategy is going to be?
I think it'll be a more of a traditional race in terms of tyre strategy, this one. Just use each compound once. The big thing around here is fuel. So those cars that are heavier in fuel consumption are probably going to have a bit of a harder time than those who are a bit lighter. That'll be remain to be seen. Good to see Audi back and doing well. Of course, Emily Jones repping that at the front, but getting ready now to take the green flag.
Yep, Jones will line up at the head of the grid, lining up on the medium compound of tyre. You would expect Wong to be challenging on that soft compound in the early stages, but as she comes over the timing line then, round 3 for the Manufacturers Series of the top 16 superstars in the Oceania region is about to go green. So Jones leads the field over the timing line, everybody darting into the slipstream. Bit of a gap back there to Wong. That might hold her charge on her back into that second corner, but through the right-hander of turn 1 we come. Everybody keeping it relatively clean. Is it anybody going to dive down the inside? A little bit of move being made further back there by the looks of things. Stanowski in the VW, I think, was trying to challenge against Mahinjit, but not quite able to make anything stick there. So Jones leads the way in this first sector, holding on to her race lead and that pole position so far.
You're coming now into the second sector, which is this great downhill roller coaster. You can see here on board, coming now to a wide shot of Jones and Wong coming down the hill, but very fun section there. She used the curbs on either side to kind of hook the car around to make sure you can actually make the corner, because while these cars do have a little bit of downforce, nowhere near as much as the Group 2 cars. So we come now down over the crest of the hill to one of the best overtaking spots on the track here, this downhill right-hander. Cy Bishop fancying a go at Sanakovsky there onto the right-hander. Will he get it done? He does, just about. No, still side by side, but they're coming up now to the chicane. Go on.
Sorry there, Jimmy. Mahinjit also losing out there as well. I think he lost a couple of positions in the space of a corner there as a result of that battle that was going on. So it's getting very close here, isn't it, on this opening stage? And Dan Holland into the wall on the outside of that chicane there as well. He's going to drop down the order. Now outside of the top 10. That's a disaster for him, because he started on the quicker soft compound of tyre and hasn't been able to take advantage, as Bishop does take advantage finally of Stanowski, and he's up the inside into P5.
So interesting first laps of my runners there. As expected, the hard runners at the back of the field. Meanwhile, Emily still at the front on that medium compound. Wong not able to make the use of that soft compound tyre, though, that he is closer than he was at the start of the race. Will he have a dive up into the T1 at the chicane here? No, he doesn't. On board now with McDonald from the BMW with that art car-esque livery there. Adam Wilk, of course, has been a long time Ford runner. Good to see him still representing the same brand. I kind of like seeing that, where drivers stay with the same car regardless of performance, etc. A good example of that as well, of course, is Cody in the Mercedes. He's been there forever. I think refuses to go anywhere else. He just loves that car and that brand so much. If you go back down the hill now, still on board with McDonald, you get a great driver's eye perspective of what it's like to tackle this second sector here at Dragon Trail. And Wong still getting closer to Jones. Will he be able to have a go here down the hill?
Yeah, getting very close indeed, as you say. Over the brow of the hill they come, hard on the brakes in towards that hairpin bend. It's a prime overtaking spot, and looks like Bishop in the background is going to have a launch on the inside of McDonald. Side by side they come, and Bishop on that soft combat of tyre is ahead of his fellow soft runner into P4 then. So Bishop making cracking progress in these Group 3 cars.
Yeah, it seems that at the front of the field, Emily is kind of just holding these guys up on the medium compound tyre. They just aren't able to get by. The Audi seems to be pretty quick in a straight line, meaning that no one's able to put it alongside on the straight, whereas, of course, Cy Bishop behind on the soft compound in the Supra is able to pick off people one by one as they're stuck behind Emily. Here is our leader then, Emily Jones. The gap behind down to less than 2/10 of a second now, and no doubt they'll be using the draft down towards T1 to try and get some sort of run. So let's look back then. There's a rear wing of Emily Jones's Audi. There is Wong behind in the Mazda, pulls out of a slipstream. He should have the overrun to get by. He'll be on the inside here, but on the outside for the first chicane. Has to actually get off the throttle there to through the corner. I think maybe it's got a little bit too tight on entry, and as a result, pulls behind Jones. I think really you want to be on the left-hand side coming through T1 there, don't you, to set up for the chicane?
Yeah, it looks to be that way, and as you said, not quite able to take advantage there for Wong. And look at how close these drivers are. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars involved in this scrap for the race lead. This is absolutely fantastic, and what we love to see in these Group 3 cars. Just that little bit closer than the Group 2 cars that we saw in the Nations Cup race a few moments ago, Jimmy. And it just adds a different element to it, doesn't it? These guys able to run in closer combat to one another without the dirty air spoiling it quite as much.
Yeah, personally for me, my favourite group is the Group 4 cars, because it's just essentially road cars with a spoiler whacked on it. But these are definitely the next best alternative. As at the front of the field, Wilk there looks up the inside of Wong, muscles his way by on that medium compound tyre. That would be disaster for Wong, but that's allowed also Cy Bishop to get a run as well. Not going to be able to quite make it before getting to the chicane, but Wong, and you would expect him to go forward on that soft tyre, but unfortunately for him, he's actually gone back a little bit.
Yeah, seems to be the case there for him. So 3 soft compound runners running in 3rd, 4th and 5th position in this race. Who'd have thought that?
Oh wow, look, Wilk now going on the inside of Emily Jones. So Wilk now on a charge. I think decided, you know what, I fancy leading this race, and he's just gone for it. I think he was holding back a little bit before. Let's see what sort of grunt that V8 Ford has on a straight line though. So it'll be V8 Ford versus V10 Audi versus straight 6 Supra behind. A little bit of a touch there between Jones and Bishop. Jones on the right line to defend. Though on the inside of both of them is McDonald. Had to just get on the brakes there, I think. Went a little bit too deep into that corner. Could have caused a massive accident. Managed to avoid it, but that allows Wong alongside as well, coming up to the right-hander. That Mazda just hasn't quite got the grunt in the straight line to take advantage, and goes back behind down to 5th.
There we go, they're nicely done for those drivers, all just keeping on the straight and narrow, a little bit sideways there for Stanowski, and this 6-way scrap is potentially becoming a maybe 12-way scrap. Everyone's closing up as they're all squabbling amongst one another. It's getting very exciting indeed between all of these drivers in this Oceania region. Wilt now leads the way in the Ford GT. That car is, well, it's donkey's years old, but it's still putting up a good fight at the front of the field. Such is the balance of performance, and Bishop is about to challenge for the race lead before too long. Hard on the brakes they go in towards that hairpin. Look at Stanowski trying to go on the inside of Wong as well. Did the medium shod runner get through? I think he did. He's now into P5 ahead of the Mazda then. So VW ahead of Mazda as they come through that chicane. Nicely done there for him. Dan Holland in the background has made up some good progress after his opening lap dramas where he clipped the wall coming through this very chicane, and is now right back into the fight here as well. So it's getting very exciting.
I'll tell you what, any of the guys on the medium tyres in this elite group, they've played a bit of a blinder here, because they're on tyres that are slower than the soft compounded tyre, of course, and not able to quite extract the same level of grip, but essentially, get the word out in the end, having the same performance as those on the soft, because they're just being dragged along. So they're holding up the guys on the soft tyre. Cy Bishop there pulls alongside Wilk up into the lead there. So Cy, this is good for him, because now, kind of conversely to what I just said, he'll now have a little bit of a gap to hopefully try and pull out on that soft tyre and make a little bit of a gap between him and the guys behind. But it's taken him till lap 5 to do that. That's 5 laps of soft usage being disrupted by the guys on mediums.
Yeah, exactly, and well, it's unfortunate there for Cy, but he is going to have taken a good amount of life out of his tyres as a result of that, as you're saying there, Jimmy. Lap 5 out of 18, we are on now then, here as the Manufacturers Series race for the Oceania region continues on. All of these drivers just absolutely precision, inch perfect as they come through these S-bends, and it's so beautiful to see them driving so well. I tell you what, I wouldn't like to be Emily Jones at the moment. She's in the unfortunate position of trying to attack McDonald in front, but also having to defend from Stanowski behind as well. Hard on the brakes we go. Look at Dan Holland trying to bite off a bit more, I think, than he could chew up the inside. Did he manage to make anything stick against Wong? Wong tries to fight it back on the exit. Side by side they come. Oh, and there's contact, and he's off into the wall. There is Wong. So I think he just cut across the nose of Dan Holland. We didn't quite see exactly what happened, whose fault that was. Either way, Dan Holland has been given a 3-second penalty as a result of that. Just to remind you, that penalty is given in-game. It's not given by a steward or anything along the lines of that. But Jimmy, what did you think of that one?
I think big drama, Tom. That's the word you're looking for there, mate. But yeah, there was. I didn't quite get a good look at it. I think that Holland maybe just wasn't quite aware that Wong was alongside at that point. Maybe turned in to start covering or start turning into the chicane and just tagged him. And of course, through there, it's very much one at a time. And when there's cars facing the wrong way, pretty much a disaster for those behind as well. So that's going to actually allow this group at the front to put away a tiny bit. But really unlucky for those guys. I don't think any of that was intentional, but you know, it just happens sometimes when you're racing that closely.
Oh, look at McDonald
great
as well,
lunge there.
diving up the inside of Will. That was very opportunistic, and it's worked perfectly. Bit of curb on the exit there. That'll compromise his run coming down the hill, but beautiful stuff from the BMW driver to move into P2 then. So now it is the two soft shod runners who lead the way then of Cy Bishop and McDonald then. What about the medium shot runners of Wilkin, Jones, as well as Stanowski? Are they going to be able to do anything? So this group that was so close to one another, probably as a result of the fact the soft runners were in and amongst the mix, and they were being held up by the medium shot runners. Yeah, it has just, it's just built out ever so slightly, hasn't it, now in these mid stages? But nobody's made a pit stop yet, so it'll be interesting to see what strategies everybody goes down.
No, yes. Speaking of strategy, sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you there, Tom. But coming down the hill. Big lift from Emily on the way down the hill. Big lift, just coasted right into the braking zone there. So I think obviously someone who's thinking about that fuel, as you mentioned before at the start of the race, fuel is going to be a factor around here. So as much as you can save now, maybe running behind somebody else, the less time you're going to spend in the pits and the more time out on circuit, of course. Because any time spent in the pits is amplified 2 or 3 times when you're out on circuit. A lot easier to gain a second in the pits than it is on track.
What about Cody Nikowski there in P7? That Mercedes-Benz not looking as fast as we have seen it in previous trim. Dan Holland comes into the pit lane meanwhile, but clearly the balance of performance has not worked in favour of Mercedes-Benz here so far, Jimmy, because he's down in P7 and hasn't made much of an impression on this race here so far.
Well, let's be honest, Merck had a pretty good run in terms of BOP, didn't it? It did very well at a lot of last year's events. I think the new BOP this year hasn't been quite as kind to the German manufacturer, but of course if anyone's going to drag that car through the field it's going to be Cody, and again this is why I'm a bit of a fan of Cody as a driver, because he's still repping that car, still repping that manufacturer despite the fact that it has been somewhat nerfed for this season. But good to see him there, still in the fight, currently up behind a GTR. We go back to Emily Jones now. Wilk in front, of course, in that Ford GT. A little bit of accident damage there to the front left of that car. I think everyone picks that up at some point coming from the chicane if you're not careful. And there is the Nissan GTR. Quite outdated by today's standards, that thing, really. It's still my favourite turbo brick, though, of course. Look at that thing go. It's I mean, especially when you compare it to the McLaren in front of it, the slender supercar, and suddenly there's a house on wheels behind you.
A house on wheels. Nissan won't be in touch for endorsements, Jimmy, I'm afraid to say.
I didn't say I didn't like the house on wheels.
I'm sure you didn't, but anyway, just in the lower half of the top 10 is Mahinjit there, and probably my apologies there because I am probably butchering his name, but coming into the pit lane there are a lot of the medium shod runners. Where are they going to change over? Phillips also in the pit lane, he goes from the softs to the mediums. Lots of drivers changing here, so Mahinjit goes then from the mediums to the hards, likewise Lakowski doing exactly the same strategy. Matt Simmons going medium here after his first pit stop. Noble going medium soft, and the converse there for Phillips going soft medium. So that's quite interesting. Now everybody's a bit out of sync, and this is what we're used to seeing in these Group 3 races, especially where strategy comes into play, Jimmy. Bit of a mid-race lull, and then it kind of gets exciting towards the end as everybody is running on different tyre compounds, and some are quicker than others.
Well, Well, the difficult thing for us, I've never been on board with the VW before. This is a very cool looking interior. Sorry, I got a bit distracted there. But the difficult thing for us as high IQ commentators is we don't really know what fuel strategy people are running, unless we see a lift every now and then. So we're on board now with the Beetle. 7th gear Beetle there. Honestly, I've never seen it. I'm really amazed at the onboard of this car. I've never seen it before, so I'm really happy. But we're on board now following Emily Jones in the R8 coming through the chicane. Here's a driver's eye perspective what it's like. Flat on the way in. Is he flat all the way through? Using the curb. You touch the wall on the right almost. A lift and a bit of a dab of the brake through there. Oh, the change of direction as the tyres grip up on exit. Such a better exit than Emily Jones. Will he go for the move up to the last corner? I think he will here. On the inside. Should be nice and easy for Stanowski. Yep, he's through. There you go. Up into P3.
Lovely stuff there for Stanowski. Just watching that onboard makes your backside go like a rabbit's nose through there. The commitment these drivers are putting in. So Stanowski
You
and
want to
Jones
get that, mate.
into the pit lane then. Medium to the hard compound of tyres. Wilk, interestingly, goes from hard to soft, so he's run those tyres for 1 lap. That's what we're expecting, really. Everyone who's on the hard tyres, they'll run them for a lap. That's the minimum time they have to run them for. Get them off as soon as you can, because they're just no use to you, really, more than anything. Interestingly, Cy Bishop and McDonald have not run those soft tyres, so I'm keen to see what their strategies are going to be, whether they're going to go mediums, hards, for 1 lap as a minimum, and then go back onto the softs in the closing stages. We're now at the halfway stage here, Jimmy. What would you be doing in these circumstances if you were Cy Bishop or McDonald?
Probably bottling it somewhere at the back of the field if it were me taking part in this. But I think if I were Cy Bishop right now, what I would do is I'd come in for the hard compound of tyre, do not refuel. Then I come in for the medium compound for the end of the race, fill her up from there, and then drive to the end. Because try and have the car be as light as possible on that hard compound of tyre to try and negate some of the negative effects of running it, and then take the medium a bit quicker, of course, that tyre, put the fuel in then, and then just drive to the end.
Now, Adam Wilk is down in P12 at the moment. He was running in the sharp end of the grid, just to remind you, earlier on. But don't forget, of course, he's a little bit out of position. Here comes Dan Holland, who's going to send it up the inside of Noble, hard on the brakes, and Phillips also going to lose out 3 wide. They go into that hairpin. That was a phenomenal move here from Dan Holland. The Red Mist has certainly descended following that penalty and the incident that he had earlier on with Noble. He gets it back and he moves inside the top 10 as the 2 leaders of Bishop and McDonald come into the pits.
Hey, poor Phillips there.
Noble's going to fight it back as well.
Yeah, I was
sorry,
saying,
Jimmy.
Phillips probably wondered what happened there. He didn't know, but then there you go, the straight line speed. Dan Holland just demoted back to 11th place. So I think maybe Holland caught the wall a bit on the exit of the chicane, as he has done before. Matt Simmons peels into the pit lane ahead of us as well. So I think Holland has shown a lot of speed here, but there's just no consistency. As of Phillips, it's a 5-second penalty. Oh, okay. So what I think might have happened is that he might have had contact with Holland, popped him into the wall, slowed them all down, and of course then Phillips is then slapped with a 5-second penalty. So we didn't see that clearly, but that's my educated guess.
That's not ideal there for him, and he's about to serve that penalty coming into that zone. You'll see that indicated on your screen in a few moments. The yellow markers at the left-hand side of the circuit, just as they come through this right-hander here, is where he'll serve it. It's not a good place to serve it because it's where you're picking up a lot of speed after going relatively slowly compared to the rest of the lap, and 5 seconds is going to seem like a week there as Adam Wilk goes past. Emily Jones is also going to come through, as I think is Lakovsky as well. Phillips just comes back into the shot. Oh, that is tight into there, and that is going to... Oh, Lakovsky just gets through. I wondered if he might have to back out of it, really, because he was... it was interesting. It was very close, but he just made it through. But Phillips, as a result of that penalty, loses 3 positions. So that's not gone well for the McLaren driver at all here.
No, not at all. But do the crime, got to do the time. And so there he is, falling down the field. We're now on board back with Emily Jones. Look who that is behind us. It's Cody Nikolakowski. These guys have both made 2 stops so far. So fair to say they're probably similar on circuit right now. Whether fuel is a factor or not, we don't know. Emily all sorts of out of shape coming out of a chicane there. That's going to allow Cody to pull by in the Mercedes. There you go, job done.
Lovely stuff there for Cody Nikolakowski. Exactly what we're used to seeing. Brown and McDonald into the pit lane then. So McDonald, who went onto the hard compound of tyre on that last lap, is straight off of them, as we expected, onto the medium tyres. Bishop, interestingly, went the other way. He's got mediums and he's going to run the hards, I'm sure, at the very end of this one. Here is Dan Holland now in P2, being challenged by Noble in P3. This is getting very close indeed. So it's Lamborghini versus Lexus. Where else would you say that other than this Group 3 race on Gran Turismo Sport. And down in towards this right-handed flick. There's so much commitment for these drivers there, but Noble looking a little bit quicker than Dan Holland at the moment, as you would begin to expect, of course, both on different tyre compounds, different strategies in this race. Holland on the mediums, Noble's on the softs.
I was interested to see Sai there go for that medium compound in the middle, but we'll see how that pans out for him.
Yeah, it is going to be an interesting strategy call there for him. So coming down the hill then, ready to go hard on the brakes into that hairpin. Dan Holland still the straight line speed of that Lambo, not actually looking too bad, I think it's fair to say. Seemingly working okay there for him. So that's all right as things stand, coming through that chicane, through the right, about to flick it left once more, and Holland looking pretty calm and composed here as things stand. I'm interested to see about Adam Wilk and McDonald, who are close behind in 4th and 5th position on the soft and medium compound tyre respectively, because they're quite close, but of course McDonald is closing more on Wilk. He's got a little bit fresher tyres on his car and a bit of a pace advantage over them at the moment. In terms of his sector times, he's a couple of tenths of a second faster than him, but here is Jones as well. We're just looking at her ready to attack back. So not looking too bad at all here as they come on to this start-finish straight. Then to start lap 12, just to remind you, they must use all 3 tyre compounds here in this manufacturer series race. It's all to play for in this one. And it's anybody's guess as to what's going to happen here. Cy Bishop, as we said, on that medium tyre, he's trying to stretch that out here at the moment, Jimmy. But it's going to be interesting to see what all plays and unfolds behind here, because there's going to be a bit of a pit loss time to consider as well.
It just depends on how much fuel you've saved at this point, really, and who's been doing that the best throughout this race. If you're going into the pits with 10 more litres than the guy behind you, then your pit stop's going to be substantially shorter, of course, than everybody else. So Cy Bishop right now, who's driving on his own, punching his own hole in the air, has probably used quite a bit of fuel in that Supra at this point. So when it comes round to pit stop, we might see everything move round.
Yeah, exactly that. So let's see what will happen then through that chicane, and Bishop just doing a good job of keeping that pace and consistent. Just to give you an idea of the lap time difference between himself and Dan Holland, both two medium shod runners who haven't got too much competition in front of them. Cy Bishop last time around a 137 flat, Dan Holland a 137.5, so a little bit different there for him. And Dan Holland has just gone tumbling down the order, so I think he's made a mistake here on this lap actually, because he was in P2, and just as I said that, he has gone right down into P10.
Yeah, it seems that way at the moment, but
yeah, it's tricky, isn't it, really? So let's wait and see what will happen between them. So yeah, Cy Bishop doing a good job there, but we didn't see what happened to Dan Holland down in P12. He's had a race of attrition, I think it is fair to say, because he's been up, down, all over the place, really, more than anything in this one. Now down in P12, and well, that is disappointing there for him. He's now on that fight back through the field. Meanwhile, look at this fight that's going on for P2. Adam Wilk versus Noble versus McDonald. Down in towards that right-hander. Of course, McDonald on the medium compound of tyre, but clearly looking quite comfortable behind the wheel of that Lexus here then so far. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out as well, because it's the closing stages of the race where we're used to seeing things get quite interesting, but here in the mid-stages, it's still pretty close.
yeah, they have to be careful with fighting this intensity, of course, at this point, because they're all on different strategies in terms of fuel and tyres, and so fighting a little bit too aggressively here could end up costing them more than it would if they were just driving on their own. So let's have a look at McDonald. Let's have a look at his throttle input here. A little bit of a lift on the way, and not a big one, but enough to save a little bit of fuel. So obviously that fuel was in the back of every driver's mind at the moment, but whether that will come into play towards the end, that remains to be seen as we go through the chicane one more time. It's crazy to think you go through this chicane 18 times in this race, and each time could be the end of your race.
Yeah, close your eyes, turn the wheel, hope for the best, I think is the strategy. Here comes McDonald then on Noble. Side by side they come under braking. Is McDonald going to launch it down the inside? No, backs out of it. Takes it steady, but Noble runs it deep into the corner. That is going to allow McDonald to pull alongside through it, and he gets it through on the exit. Here comes Cody Lakowski as well, as Noble is shuffled out wide onto this start-finish race, and he's going to carry that mistake down now, is Noble, and Lakowski's got the advantage of the slipstream. They're nearly 3 wide as Lakowski goes for the inside line through the right-handed kink. He's going to challenge for third position, but here comes McDonald ready to fight it back under braking into turn 2. Hard on the brakes they go, but Lakowski runs it deep into that corner there. That's going to compromise his exit, but that was fantastic opportunist driving from Cody Nikola Lakowski, taking advantage of others' mistakes, and that has promoted him at the moment into P3 in this race.
That was a really clever move there from Lakowski. We call that a block pass, really, where he sent it up the inside almost on purpose, got it wrong, so he was slow on the apex. And of course, what that means is when someone comes up behind him, he's got nowhere to go. He's got to get off the throttle, got to get on the brake, and that allows Cody up into P3.
Lovely stuff there for Lakowski then. Now McDonald is the driver who is chasing him. Keep an eye out for Noble and Jones as well, who we know is very aggressive. She's pulling out of the slipstream of Noble as they go hard on the brakes into that right-hander. Does she find her way up the inside in the Audi? She certainly does, and now she is into the top 5 as well. So this is getting very interesting. 3.5 laps remain here at Dragon Trail Seaside. Don't forget, of course, your race leader, Cy Bishop. He's still got to make at least one more pit stop onto that harder compound of tyre. He's got a 6.5 second advantage to Adam Wilk and Cody Lakowski in P2 and P3, but the lap time difference is very significant. Bishop last time around a 137.4, Lakowski in P3 a 136.5. I'm interested to see if this is going to work out for Bishop, because I don't think he's going to have the time in the pit stop to hold off that charge if everybody's closing down at that rate of knots over the next couple of laps or so.
Yeah, I was going to say, from what turned out to be quite a poor qualifying session from Cody, he's now really coming back through the field. Great racecraft there, as we're used to seeing really from that driver. So hopefully he can continue that and keep that going, of course. But the problem for him is that he's now fighting on track with Wilk, of course. And really, ideally, he wants to have his own little bit of track that he can call his own, so he hasn't got to deal with this. But he's also getting pulled along as well, so it's up and down for him.
Yeah, it certainly is. A bit like a lift business at the moment here for him at the moment. Up and down. There is Cody Lakowski running through those S-bends just behind the Ford GT in that dirty air of Adam Wilk coming over the brow of the hill. He's getting closer here now. Is he going to have a lift? Let's see as we ride on board with him. Is he going to just back off ever so slightly? Not too much there for him. Closes up significantly on the brakes, so he has got his intentions very much clear at the moment, is Lakowski, and that would do him good actually to be in clear air. Oh, you can just see him clipping the grass there on the outside, grazing the wall as they come into that chicane. That'll have upset his line a little bit as he carries a bit of dirt on his tyres, and it upsets the second part of the chicane there as well. He loses momentum, but you can see in the mirrors he's got a mirror full of BMW and McDonald as he tries to find his way through up the inside. But McDonald just backs out of it again at the last moment. Clearly he doesn't have that grip under braking on those medium tyres.
No, not at the moment, it seems. And sorry, Tommy, it's not at the moment. He's still struggling a little bit out there as is. Someone else, of course, still in this fray is Emily Jones, just behind us on board with McDonald. So it's definitely a free four-way fight now for what will be the lead of this race when Bishop comes in. The lap times from Bishop's still okay on that medium compounder tyre, but again, he's probably going to have quite a big fuel stop coming up on that hard compound. Maybe he's actually put a bit of fuel in already, because we are getting now towards the end of this race. Only a couple of laps left remaining before we get to the checkered flag, of course. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be a bit of a last lap scramble, this one, Tom.
I'm excited to see how it's all going to play out for these drivers. I tell you what, Dan Holland, just an absolute shocker down there in P15. Not gone well at all for him on the hard tyres. He's had a race of attrition, and he's now down the last of the classified runners in this race. What about Matt McEwen and Matt Simmons there as well? Matt's gone for a four-stop strategy. It's not worked out there for him at all in P13. Matt McEwen likewise not been featuring in this one either. Disappointment there for him, as well as Wong, who's down in P11. And here comes Wilk defending. You can see him locking up the brakes there against Lakowski as they come through into that hairpin. And now he goes to the defensive line into the chicane. So Wilk definitely on the back foot here. And this is for the de facto race lead we're expecting as well. Once Bishop makes his final pit stop, it's going to be very close indeed. Once again, a bit out of shape there for Lakowski. That allows McDonald to close up coming on the corner exit, but he's not going to have the same grip under the brakes, and we don't think that McDonald is going to make a move. Indeed, he does not. So the best thing he can do at the moment is just to sit behind McDonald as it stands in this race. Lakowski rather, McDonald is what he can do. Just sit behind his fellow countryman in the BMW and keep on the back of him and try and challenge on the final lap of this race.
That's kind of what Bishop needs right now. He needs these guys to squabble and just give them as much time as possible. If you look at the gap as it was from this lap to the last lap, it's basically stayed the same. The gap between second and third here, even with that tyre advantage these guys have in the little second pack that are running at the moment. So the more squabbling they're doing, the better this is going to be for Cy Bishop.
It was very aggressive into that first corner as well, because Wilt was trying to defend and Lukowski chopped to the inside, wasn't quite able to find his way past. But running on board here with McDonald, who's got a mirror full of Emily Jones and a face full of Mercedes AMG as they come through these S-bends then, flicking it left, flicking it right, keep it nice and smooth through here. That is the name of the game. We're on the penultimate lap out of 18 at the Dragon Trail Seaside Circuit, and it is getting very exciting indeed. Now, coming down on the brakes, will anybody lift off? What about McDonald? We ride on board with him. Does he lift under braking? Ever so slightly, but just keeping his cards quite close to his chest. I think he's going to try and do something on this final lap here, Jimmy.
He may well do. He may well do. Of course, it doesn't really matter where you are now. It matters where you are on the last lap of the race. So we'll double check and see what his plan is. He's very close to Cody coming through the chicane there, almost pushing the Australian Macedonian driver through there. Something you definitely don't want to do, I can tell you that now. But now coming on to the last lap of the race, Cy Bishop will peel into the pit lane to take that hard compound of tyre. He must do. There he is there. Also coming in with pretty much no fuel in the tank. Yeah, so it's going to be a splash there for Bishop for the end of the race. Let's see where he comes out though.
So on to the final lap here that you can see Wilk is having to defend. Where is Bishop going to emerge in this battle? He's surely going to have lost the lead. He has, and now it is the scrap for the lead then between Wilk and Lukowski. Wilk defends, Lukowski tries to attack. McDonald is also in the play here as well, but don't forget he's got the medium tyres, the slower compound of tyres. They're coming down then in towards this right-hander. It is getting very exciting indeed for these drivers, and surely the next overtaking opportunity is going to be coming into that hairpin. Jimmy, what's going through your mind right now when you're trying to attack for this lead here?
Just be careful, basically. You're only going to have one chance at it, so you have to make sure you really put it in the right place at the right time. If anyone's going to do that, it's going to be Cody coming through the S's for the last time now as we come up now to what is probably going to be the second to last overtaking opportunity coming down the hill. Cody's deep in the slipstream with Wilk, as is McDonald, as is Jones. Any of these guys can make up a place right now. So Wilk goes defensive straight away. Cody there looks round the outside, tries to outbrake Wilk. Will he get it done? Really late on the brakes. Oh, he's gone wide. He slid wide there. That's going to cost him. Through goes McDonald. It's Jones going to get him too. No, they're going to be side by side coming through the chicane, and Lukowski just stays ahead.
This is very exciting indeed. So Wilk timed that to perfection. He forced Lukowski into a mistake. Through the chicane we go for the final time. Once again, Lukowski is out of shape as they come through the bridge into the final opportunity for a move there. Wilk is going to defend with every ounce of talent that he has. Hard on the brakes we go. McDonald tries to go the long way around the outside of Lukowski. He's not able to find anything through there, and Wilk does hold on for Ford and takes the win for the Manufacturers Series in the Oceania region of the top 16 superstars. 0.3 of a second separates it at the line. Adam Wilk takes the win ahead of Lukowski and McDonald. Emily Jones just misses out on a podium. Stanowski, Bishop, right at the very end there, finishes in P6 ahead of Mahanjit and Brown. Well, that was very interesting, but Wilk just positioned that GT absolutely faultlessly on that final lap.
It's mad that after 18 laps, we have 4 different drivers, 4 different manufacturers, 4 different strategies within a second of each other.
Hugely impressive stuff. So there are our final results. You can see on screen Stanowski actually got the fastest lap in that race in the Group 3 Beetle in P5 ahead of Bishop, who really lost out quite significantly in the closing stages of that one. Maybe if he'd had a bit more fuel on board, he might have done a bit better, but he had to take some fuel on as well, which would have cost him time in the pit stops. Noble Wong inside the top 10 ahead of Phillips, Simmons, Matt McEwen, Connor Healy and Dan Holland down there in P15. So that is our results for the Oceania region for the Top 16 Superstars Manufacturer Series race. Let's see what it means for the championship standings. You can see there Adam Wilk takes the lead of the Oceania region series for the Manufacturers Championship, so ahead of Lukowski now as he takes that win. McDonald's, Jones, Stanowski and Bishop also moving up the order. Dan Holland, Matt Simmons and Mahanjit moving down. A few movers a little bit further down outside of the top 10 there, Jimmy, but the crucial point is that the leader has changed in the Oceania region.
Yeah, and on track too. You imagine first and second on track and first and second in the standings. So obviously the guys are definitely where they should be, in a great result as well for McDonald's, Jones and Stokowski, as you said as well. But Dan Holland, though, one to forget for him, I think, in the Lamborghini.
Yeah, difficult day at the office for him. Anyway, that brings an end to our Oceania region top 16 superstars races for round 3 of the championship. We will be back for round 7 on the 17th of May. From Jimmy Broadbent and from myself, Tom Brooks, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.